The province of the Church of Uganda is made up of 37 dioceses spread across the province. With our cameras, we headed to Natete, where the genesis of Namirembe Diocese starts from, to speak to Reverend Abraham Lubega, the diocesan trainer, to understand the events that led to the formation of one of Uganda's oldest dioceses in the province.
In 1877, the first missionaries from Church Missionary Society came to Uganda, and they were received by the then king of Uganda, who was called Mutesa the first. But before that, Stanley had come earlier in Uganda in 1875 and met that same king at Banda, where currently the king of Uganda is residing. When Stanley met King Mutesa, you know, Stanley was a journalist like you, and so he painted a picture of England being ruled by a woman, Queen Victoria, being mighty, but more so, they had Jesus Christ. So King Mutesa was interested in the story, and he told Stanley that he would like the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, to send missionaries, one for religion, two for knowledge. And so Mutesa wrote a letter guided by Stanley, and that letter reached England in 1875. November, it was read, and the missionaries from Church Missionary Society selected people to come. And they arrived here on the 30th of June, 1877. They were received by the king, King Mutesa the first. And so that those people had many problems on the way. And it is only two people who managed to reach the king's palace. That is Lieutenant Shergold Smith and Reverend C.T. Wilson. But later, in 1878, they were joined by Mackay, Alexander Mackay. So when Alexander Mackay came, he started his work in Mutesa's palace. And he did a great work. 1879, another group of missionaries came from the Catholic Church. And so Mutesa, because he was a statesman, relocated the Church Missionary Society to Natete and remained with the Catholic Church. And so they came to Natete here.
Alexander Mackay, a Scottish engineer by profession, was very instrumental in the formation of the present-day Namirembe Diocese, having been one of the earliest missionaries. According to Reverend Lubega, Mackay started preaching the gospel at Natete, but due to lack of proper housing, he made use of a cave. Now the place that I'm standing is Natete, where the history of Namirembe Diocese starts from. Now the cave behind me is a place where missionary Alexander Mackay used to teach the royal guards of the Kabaka at this exact place. However, it's very unfortunate that we have found the cave closed, and the person actually with the keys to the padlock is away, unfortunately. Reverend Lubega toured us around some of the fossils that aided Mackay in his duty of evangelism at Natete.
He was a missioner teaching the new converts. And all those boys who were killed by Mwanga at Namugongo were in his school. The 3 boys killed at Busega. I don't know whether I've ever gone to Busega. There is the Busega Martyrs Church. The other side, there is also 3 boys who were killed there. They were also in Mackay's class. So when he was here, he had a literal school, you can say a school. Those were no buildings. And then a church, you can say, no building. And then he had a carpentry, he had an iron smelting plant. And so here he would teach boys carpentry. But during the troubled years of 1880, late 1880s, religious wars, Mackay decided to go to Tanzania to rest. When he was there, he made a plan of the church he would come to build when he comes back. And so he did that drawing up there, which you see. He died in 1890, and the people who went to see his body found it there with the inscription, "This is the church I am going to build at Natete." So they brought it back here and built exactly as he wanted it. And then because Mackay was, as I told you, you can see this key. This key is over 100 years and is still working. So he did all this work. He did all this work, hoping that when he comes back, he will meet it there. And it is here. And up there, you see that it was his stool. Originally,
one of the most prestigious things that define Namirembe as a diocese is a tree which was planted at Natete at the present-day Martyrs Church. The tree is believed to have survived for over 135 years, yet it still bears fruit.
This mango tree is one of the things which Mackay planted himself. So if we believe that Mackay left here in 1888, then you can see how old this tree is. And it is very interesting to see that this mango tree still brings fresh mangoes.
This edition of the feature story continues with more information about the history of how Namirembe Diocese came into existence. John Jime Musimbi, Emma Chitibwa, Church of Uganda Family TV News at 8.